what's crazy is that I told some of my friends and my cousins, like, oh yeah, my friend Rick Tittle, and they're like, what? Oh my God, you know him? And I was like, he's like, yeah, he's just the A's guy, and they're like, no, he's Raiders. So like, you're really known in the Raiders community.
So yeah, it's funny because my dad's from Oakland. He went to Fremont High School in Oakland, and so we had Raiders season tickets growing up. My dad was very eclectic. He had tickets to the San Francisco Symphony. We'd go on Wednesday nights, and then Raiders season tickets. And I think it's cool to be like, a little bit multicultural like that. But football was always my first love. But then again, because of my age, first 3 years I was in Little League, the A's won the World Series. The next year, the Warriors won the championship, and the next year, the Raiders won the Super Bowl. So it was World Championship 5 years in a row. So I'm a little kid, and I'm an Oakland fan for life. Mm-hmm. Like, it was the center of the universe.
Yep.
And I love the fact that the A's wore green and gold and had white spikes. There was no one like us. I love the fact that everyone hated the Raiders, and they were renegades, and they were like bikers, and they cheated, and there was nothing like the Raiders. Still the best uniforms in sports, I think, of any sport. And then the Warriors, after 75, it was pretty dank for 40 years outside of Run TMC for about 3 or 4 years. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I was an Oakland fan for life. So if you told me as a little kid, because I would listen to these shows and I would call in, I would call guys like Scotty Sterling and Candido at pregame, postgame, that I would do the A's and I would do the Raiders. Like, I would never have believed that, because you have to know what you're talking. When I first got the A's gig, I got called and I go, we want you to do the weekends. We think you have the passion and the knowledge. So I made sure there's not going to be one minor leaguer that I don't know. There's not going to be one pitch that I don't watch. Because I took it so seriously. Like, I want to be someone that you can go to and say, what's up right now and at Stockton. I would go to Stockton on my own dime, and I would go to Rayleigh Field back when we had AAA there on my own dime. And I would interview Jamal Weeks and Michael Taylor and Josh Donaldson, these guys. And then I would play it on my pregame show. No one told me to. I didn't get extra money, because I'm a lifelong A's fan, and so I had access, so I took advantage of it.
I mean, I went too. Jeez.
That's crazy, because whenever you talk about like sports in the Bay Area, like it always comes down to Oakland being such an underdog, especially with you, Casey, with Brody. Like, all you guys were just doing it just for the love of Oakland East Bay sports. Like, what does all this shit that's going on mean to you right now?
Well, I think if I was, like, the Raiders moved when I was a senior in high school, and I can't tell you how devastated I was, because the Raiders were the coolest team in the world, and I stayed with them. There were people on my street, because back then, that was right before the Niners dynasty began, mm-hmm. So you could switch and get Niners season tickets, and I understood them. They wanted to tailgate, they wanted to support a team that was local. I totally get it. But for me, it was in my DNA. So for those 13 years, I stayed loyal to the team, even though it was hard to see their games, kind of like this last week, where I didn't get to see the Raiders till the Niners were over at Baltimore this week. Yeah. But I think if I was younger, I would be more devastated. I have a little more, I realize now that sports is not life and death like I used to think. But it is bizarre. I don't know what we did as Oakland fans to have this happen twice with our football team. I used to think what happened with the Warriors sucked. That almost feels like nothing, because they're 8 miles to the west.
Yeah, it's not that. I don't think that's such a big deal compared to.
That would be a big deal, because other stuff didn't happen.
Exactly.
But I do remember when they had their opening party for Breaking Ground, and they had all these cranes doing dances, and I was working for the Warriors flagship 95.7, and I didn't go. And I'm like, look, I'll support them. I'll be a Warriors fan. But I'm not going to go down there and go, hip, hip, hooray, you're leaving Oakland.
Like Willie Schaff?
Yeah. But I went to the very last Warrior game where they lost the championship to Cleveland. And I remember just walking out of there stunned. I went to the very last Raider game twice and walking out of there stunned. And then coming up here Thursday week, it's going to happen again. And it's just weird that it's all happening bam, bam, bam like that.
Does this feel weird? So I know that it's depressing. It's weird. It feels surreal that the A's are going to leave to Sacramento, and who knows what's going to happen after that. Like, what are you feeling right now as like a fan who's seen every other team leave? Like, is this like the it feels like a gut punch to you, or is it kind of just, are you over it, or?
I'm not over it. This feels way worse than the Raiders because we were told. I mean, the A's helped the Raiders leave. They did everything they could to make the Raiders leave. And then they said, we're rooted in Oakland. We're not going anywhere. We're building a treehouse, and we're doing that, and you can come in for $1. All these things. They left. We're not leaving. And so I thought, okay, at least we're a big league city. And even though my football is my favorite sport, baseball season is my favorite season because it's every day. And I love baseball so much. And I kind of feel like, plus with football, you go to a football game, they're not old ladies knitting, there aren't little kids running around. It's toothless motorcycle hags and meth dealers. So you it's way worse because not only is baseball more important to the community, but also it affects way more people. And especially when we were promised that happened. There was this weird sort of love-hate relationship with the Davis family because I remember going to the town hall meeting that the NFL had, and they had it in San Diego and St. Louis and Oakland about we don't want to lose our teams. And St. Louis put a big dossier of like 500 pages. The San Diego did 100 pages, and then Libby did 5 pages, which was like, we'll move some dirt around for you if you want. But it was at the Paramount Theater. I wasn't allowed to ask a question as a media member.
Oh yeah, I remember this.
Mark Davis comes out and everyone cheers, and I'm like, this is like Stockholm syndrome. You love the Davis family because Al created the mystique. And what's funny is that usually a father wants their sons or daughters to be interested in what they're in. Al wanted Mark nowhere near the team.
Yeah.
And so it's like this weird Stockholm syndrome. That is not the case with John Fisher. There's no love for him. And Wally Haas was saying it's unforgivable. I just saw an article today in the Chronicle about Mickey Morabito, who I like over the years. I really like Mickey. He always said, you tell it like it is. He didn't hate me for scathing on the team. But he said that one time Walter Haas Sr., the owner of the A's, came down to the clubhouse and he said, is it okay if I take a ball? And he goes, you paid for all the balls. He goes, I know, but I don't want to. He's like, that's the kind of owner. Someone with humility and some class. Like he didn't want to like mess anything up, even though he paid for everything. And so it's the complete 160 dichotomy now, the contrast with a guy like Fisher, who doesn't understand that you're a custodian of a team. You don't just own it.
Yeah, it was like that article too. I think it was the similar article, and it was just a quote that they're watching a game in the suite with Reggie Jackson. The Coliseum was sold out. It's like, what? To capacity, and Reggie Jackson just sits back and goes like, oh man, look at all these people here, you must be making a lot of money.
Oh yeah, I saw that quote.
And Haas just goes, hey man, it's not about that, like you don't get it, it's about look at the families, look at the kids who are having fun. And that's, to me personally, that's the worst part about this whole thing, is the future generations, they're not going to be able to grow up like we did. I've said it many times before, but I mean, like you said before, again, just to piggyback, it's not life or death, but I think about the future of everything.